hit my head, not fun. I said, seagulls, stop it now.
Ooh, ooh, ah, ooh, 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 ah.
Everyone told me not to stroll on that beach. Said seagulls gonna come, hook me in a coconut, and they did, and they did, had me going like, nothing I could do but yell when these birds attacked me. When I tried to run, I fell, and then these kids started laughing, and then got hit in the neck with a hacky sack. Where did it come from? Now run, run, run. I can be a backpack by you. Run, run,
Good morning, everyone.
put me down.
Hey, good morning, Scott. How are you?
The groove and boogie. Yeah.
I'm enjoying my seagull song. I'm sorry, guys. I know they can't hear it right now. Everyone on stream can hear it, but they can't. How you guys doing?
On the beach.
I'm doing well.
Doing good.
Awesome. So today's an exciting day.
Yeah, it is. It very
Why?
much so is.
I think it's because Marcus is in the Sahara or in Africa. Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, I was very cold this morning, so a little warmth felt good.
Awesome. Good morning, chat. How are you guys doing? Rad, Four-Stoner, Starman. Good to see you guys. Marcus is on safari. Marcus, you've got an interesting story around that, don't you? That's actually
Yeah, this is-
a real photo.
Yeah, that's
not
actually
fake.
my picture. This is not something I downloaded. This is actually one that I took when I was in South Africa about 2 years ago. So it's the zebras are about that far away from us.
Yeah, and the zebra's eyeing you as well, is what Sabrina is saying. Thanks, Sabrina. That's awesome. So where are all the ugly Christmas sweaters? So I've got my coconut seagulls, because what is it, Adam, today? In the background, it's kind of in your board?
It's Star Wars Day, so I realized that there were some red, or if people saw some of the news, blue carpet premieres that were in, I think, L.A. and London. But for the general populace, for early fan screenings, I am literally taking time out of the office for the latter portion of the day to hit 2 premieres of Star Wars: Rise of Skywalker tonight. Like, all you haters can get out of here.
Go away. Go
yep,
away. Yep.
If you're a Star Wars fan, you're a Star Wars fan and you love it. So I'm gonna go and I will weep openly. I will cheer and I will embrace those sitting next to me. We're wrapping up the Skywalker saga, and there's no better way to marry fake and in space sci-fi geekdom and the raw power with what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah,
Good transition.
The robotic capabilities, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, quite honestly, I mean, there's been a lot around that Star Wars stuff, right? There's a lot of people that are unhappy with the lore and all this other kind of stuff, and I'm like, you know what? Whatever. This is actually a really good show. I don't mind it. So. It is the power of the dark side, as Forerunner would say. So today, obviously, we plan to kind of go through Microsoft Flow, or what they call Power Automate now, in a little bit more detail. And yes, Carl, I agree. We need a preview of Adam weeping.
Oh, well, you can have a preview of my awesome jacket. I mean, there's that.
Look at that. He's got the Star Wars all set up on there. Marcus, do you have your Star Wars gear on?
No weeping.
I don't. I'm short my Star Wars gear, and I'm short my ugly sweater for the Office Ugly Sweater Contest.
Yep. So, well, that should be fun. So, I guess might as well kind of get to business, right? 4 minutes into the stream. So, kind of today what we wanted to discuss a little bit more in detail was going to be Power Automate. We've had this theme around CDS that we've been doing lately, mainly because it's a really big differentiator. You have zebras. What else do you need, Marcus? We don't need CDS. We just need
nothing.
zebras. That's awesome. I love that, Sabrina. But the intent here, obviously, is to try to talk about some of the more advanced capabilities that that integrate with Dynamics 365, because we keep on talking about this story, and everyone, when we go into the pre-sales portion of it, they're like, well, we're just looking for ERP, or we're looking for CRM, and they use those acronyms still today, and they really don't understand that the lines between them are just really convoluted now. And it's intentional, because businesses need to have information from sales to make delivery targets, to understand what their forecasts are going to be, to understand what they're going to manufacture. I mean, they're all tied together, basically. And, that concept, though, while new and great for the Microsoft platform and what we're doing, hasn't, coalesced through all the other areas in business, right? It hasn't, you can't make direct integrations really easily, or you haven't been able to in the past, with older software systems, right? It's just been really problematic to go from that older technology set to a newer technology set. And it's probably the most common thing is that if you think about it, I almost feel like a salesman. I'm in pre-sales, and I view myself as more technical than anything. But when you talk to somebody like that, they're like, well, just prove it. And then you prove it. And you show them some of these capabilities that we have. And then all of a sudden, it's just like, that's the fun part of pre-sales, is that we get to show the vision with it. So Adam, I know today you had planned to kind of go through Power Automate to show a lot more detail with this. And we're gonna deal with robots today too, right?
A little bit.
Robots.
On theme, right? I mean, Darth Vader is part robot, so yeah.
So Power Automate's part of the Common Data Service, though, correct?
Yeah, so Power, and you'll hear people speak about Common Data Service. You'll hear people speak about Power Platform. So the core three pillars of the Power Platform being Power Automate, which we'll talk about today, Power BI, and for reporting capabilities, and Power Apps. So that creates the house, the Common Data Service. This really is the workflow engine for CDS, or the preferred workflow engine for CDS.
And not just CDS, right? I mean, it sounds like connector-wise, we're going to go through this in more detail, but I mean, it's beyond. It's nice to have CDS. We keep talking about that because that's your enterprise data, right? That's where everything goes that you can report off of. But in the future here, though, too, you got to get data from multiple sources into there, right?
Absolutely. So yeah, as Scott just mentioned, I mean, there are so many applications of this automation engine. Like it's pretty boundless right now, and obviously we're limited to a number of connectors. We'll talk about connectors and what we can plug into, and really the breadth and depth of everything that we have at our fingertips when we're talking about Power Automate. But yeah, getting data from one place to another, and in a low code, no code fashion, and being able to point and click configure, all with ease, whether you're a beginner, an advanced admin, somebody who is living in this once a year or once every hour. It's very easy to jump in and start doing and start automating and start flowing.
Cool. So let's go ahead on Adam. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change our view here and start presenting your screen, and basically just start going through this. And we've played around a little bit with this. Actually, we've played around quite a bit with it. I'd say that this is more, I know there was a prospect that I talked to yesterday. I hope you're on here as well, our customers as well. I mean, the intent here is not to get super deep. Our intent is really to just start talking about automate and flow and the capabilities with it. During demonstrations, our last demo that we had that I did, that was actually a 2-day demo. Again, I love those finance and supply chain management demos. But the cool thing was I took, cool and kind of creepy, maybe. I don't know. I'll let you guys decide. I took the list of everyone that was on an email, and I had an event that occurred then during the presentation where all of a sudden the dark side came over, a Microsoft notification on the process that completed as part of that transaction. And they all looked around like, oh, this is just, I think they weren't expecting to have an email when I had a demo system that was going to broadcast everything to. So that's, a very
creepy.
That's really cool.
good creepy. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
We'll find the middle ground with this. So that that's the capability that we're talking about here. Not just email though, but to take data. Another example is to take data to integrate it between systems. So you keep on hearing from some partners, they're like, well, the common data service doesn't work yet. Like there's competitors that are out there like NetSuite that say that when we go into an opportunity, and quite frankly, it's a little bit frustrating because we have multiple ways to do it. Meaning we've got a data integrator, we've got dual write, and that's becoming more generally available here over time. We also then have flow or automate that we can take entities and synchronize them back and forth between the common data service in Business Central and or Finance and Operations or Finance and Supply Chain Management or CE. So I think this, Adam, I'm looking forward to this because it's really going to show what the
200
capabilities
plus
are.
Other applications.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and flip over here. So we've got us on the far left. We're going to probably cut out a little bit as he goes through here. One thing to note is that we have had some internet issues. So if Adam gets really, really small, he will become big again over time. So
Yeah.
Or
I'm just cowering,
in the corner.
Like I'm scared of how capable Power Automate is, so I might get a little overwhelmed here and there. And I've had a ton of caffeine this morning, so anxiety wash. We'll see.
Yeah. Hey, this is nothing. Remember, this is on stream. It's here forever. We can never get rid of it. No pressure.
It lasts forever on the internet. No, we're
No
good.
pressure.
We're
No
good.
pressure.
Are we up with the screen here?
Yep, I got the screen showing. So
Perfect.
we can see
Okay.
everything except for kind of the far left because that's where our beautiful mug shots are.
Yeah,
Over
no,
there I can't see.
That works. So,
Okay.
what you're seeing here is the Power Automate portal. So, historically, and when I say historically, I mean as of like a month ago or like 3.5 weeks ago. This was the Flow portal. But this is accessible if you go to any of your Microsoft Business applications. If you're in Outlook, if you're in Teams, you're in the web there. You can click on that waffle icon. I know other people have different names for that icon. Fight me. It's a waffle icon. But
The
I think that is
dots.
the technical name, isn't it?
It's the 9 dots.
it's but under the applications here, anything you've got access to. I just went. I think I was in D365, so I went up into the left hand corner and I clicked the Power Automate portal button there. So click into that app and you are thrown to your home screen for Power Automate. Just to talk through a couple of pieces here. This first home screen is really summation stuff or summary information. We've featured templates and connectors and services. We're going to get into all of this in a second. Further down, it really is just sort of a highlight and a slight walk through some of the more popular components or popular aspects of Microsoft Power Automate or Flow. So you got a couple of panes or a couple of areas in the page that will walk you through some of the vernacular, how to talk about capabilities, and then further down, how to start with templates, which we'll dissect here in a minute. Some testimony. It's a pretty stock staple home screen. I'm not going to belabor it too much.
Yeah, so I got a question though. Top right though, the environment. So our last video we did the creation of a trial environment, right? And I see you've got environments in the top right here. You could basically go to trials.dynamics.com, spin up a sales demo environment basically, and then you would then have that environment and that integrates then with Automate, right?
Correct. Yeah. So just as logging into Power BI or Power Apps, or if you're in the any Maker portal, you are going to in the new world here, you are going to have your environments available in the top right. Right now, I'm in our default our production environment, so that's where I'm living right now. But yes, to Scott's point, you do have the ability to flip between any of the environments that you have available within your tenant.
Okay, cool, awesome. Thanks, Adam.
So I'm in our full demo instance right now, but Yeah, top right, it'll show you the environment that you're living in right there. So as we see in D365, and really and I love the consolidation toward the left nav. Over in the left navigation here, if you want to clear up a little, I realize I'm probably running into some floating heads, and you might not be able to see a little bit in the top left of the screen.
I keep flipping it for you, so that way people can see.
Yeah, we're
so
good now.
I'm managing it.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
You can clear up a little real estate here by clicking on the menu icon. But further down, we've got our home screen, and then a number of things that we're going to jump into. I did want to kick things off with a little bit of content from Microsoft. They put work into this, and they, the messaging it does ring true, and it sticks at the high level. So we are going to just watch the quick intro on Power Automate and speaking in Microsoft terms and really framing it the way that they want it to be framed. So we'll cue this up and we'll take a listen.
Gotta love marketing.
These days, there's a cloud service to do just about anything. Problem is, there's no good way to get your favorite apps to talk to each other, to connect them, and automate the tasks that are so time-consuming. Or is there? With Microsoft Power Automate, whether you start from a template or create your own multi-step flow across several apps, it's simple. Why constantly check email when you can get a text message whenever someone important emails you? Automating that means you can use that time to do other things. And Power Automate can really help get things connected. Say someone tweets about your company. Set up a flow that follows them, sends a nice reply, adds them to a spreadsheet that gets emailed to you for your approval, then adds their contact to Salesforce or Dynamics 365. You can also get and manage approvals using Power Automate on the web, your phone, or even right from your inbox. And this streamlined approval process works with data in SharePoint, Microsoft Dynamics 365, Twitter, MailChimp, and over 100 other services. And with the Power Automate app, you can monitor, manage, and create flows from anywhere. For tasks that need to happen now, like instantly blocking out the next hour in your calendar, we've designed flows that start with the tap of a button. How about that? That's technology talking together, working smarter, so you can work less and do more.
Nice.
It's so uplifting. I felt so calm.
Yeah, I thought it was Minecraft there for a second. I was like, that sounds like a Minecraft song in the background. This is awesome.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys have anything to throw out there in terms of what stood out. A couple of things for me. What I really like is that line, and it definitely is one of those sound bites that was intentional. Is like technology talking together, right? So this is whether we're talking about productivity gains or automation, or as Scott had kind of highlighted earlier, actual work stream critical data between business applications. It's technology talking together. And the second point, which marries into the first, is I made a face. They highlighted Salesforce first. So, they're and this really goes to the top of what Microsoft is doing right now, not only with like market, how they're designing and how they're building Power Apps and the Power Platform, breaking down barriers between applications or between what were really like brand silos, so where Microsoft never would even think about, or Salesforce never would think about engaging Microsoft and saying, yeah, we can use it, an Outlook app, or we can plug in with your Power Automate workflow engine. Now we're seeing that handshake, and we're seeing those applications talk together, and I think that's really cool. Not only from I'm a little biased to Microsoft here, but from a product positioning and like market injection and getting some traction within other technology stack spaces, but also just if as a technologist, really appreciating the fact that some of these walls are being torn down very actively, very aggressively, and very very functionally. Like this is awesome to see.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that hits me in this isn't just marketing stuff. It's not marketing fluff. It's not pie in the sky. If I look at how Power Automate integrates with Business Central, the approval that they showed in that marketing piece actually works. This isn't, in the next release or in a future release, we hope to have these things working. It works today. You can do those things today.
Yeah, it used to be, Marcus. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I mean, it used to be, we had what was called business notifications in BC at, I think, like 4.0 they introduced that.
Yeah,
but for every area that you needed to have a notification that was just to send an email or to populate a table, I think was the other area. But you had to create code every single time for every single event or trigger that occurred with that. And so it just didn't get any traction. I mean, it was a great concept, but because it had to customize the solution every single time, it caused problems. What's really interesting about this is that this goes beyond just one set of applications. Like you're saying with Salesforce that they said first, this is the world we live in now. People like different systems. There's a whole culture behind those systems, right? And so to make it so that you point at Salesforce and say, for example, everything you do in CRM is wrong, that's not the truth, right? The truth is that there's a culture and there's an understanding that a person has with a tool. And we look at technology. I was comparing this with somebody else I was talking to just recently. Why would a CEO mandate that you have to go with SAP versus a different system? Because they look at it, and an example would be, let's say that CEO had a truck and it was a Ford F-350. In the last 10 years, he's bought that type of truck and he's had no issues with it. He knows for a fact that if they move to this type of system, for example, or has this idea or concept, that it's a tool that you use to go through and do this. But what we're finding as well then is that it's not just the tool, it's the information that comes back from the tool. So that's why you start looking at diagnostic information, even on the F-350 example, sensor data that's coming into it to make it so that the computer can adjust timings for, how a piston basically, or when the combustion occurs. I mean, there's all these different things that are occurring with it, and what we really want, in all honesty, is data. I mean, that is the core of every discussion that we have within ERP and CRM now, is that data is really the driver of this information. And that's why the platform has been gaining so much popularity, is because of that data perspective that exists.
Yep. So, in order to take steps to surface that data, to work with it, to kick off those work streams and do more, at the end of the video there, they said, I can't remember exactly what the tagline was, but work smarter. Have these productivity gains and have these systems talking to one another and have those handshakes in place. And the cool thing is, we're going to jump into it right now, is it's so easy to just start doing. It's so easy to start building and get a feel for how to construct these flows. And yes, it does get advanced. And yes, there is, a somewhat proprietary kind of like an Excel-like language. But just as with other products or other capabilities or services in the Power Platform, you'll hear low code, no code, less code, more power. So, that's really
true.
Yeah, and it's
formula.
amazing what you can do just with point and click. And I say we just kind of dive in and take a look.
I agree.
So on the left-hand side here, I'm going to skip over this action items. If I crack that open, they talked about approvals, and there are some business process flows. If you're familiar with Dynamics 365, sales, marketing, customer service, kind of that historically CRM or CE stuff, that name might ring a bell, or that label might ring a bell. I'm going to stick out of that for right now. What I'll focus on, we're going to start to kind of focus in on the building blocks of flows. We can jump in right into create. So if I click into create here, if you wanted to go blank slate, figure it out, feel it out as you go. Some people learn better just getting thrown into the fire. It's more effective, or they internalize things more effectively if they just have everything at their fingertips and learn how to construct it. That's totally fine. You'll see it if you click into the create area of the portal here. They still guide you, they still lead you, but I'm not going to go blank slate. We do have to kind of set a couple of standards here. We have to kind of level set. So further down, we've got our connectors and our connectors and our templates. We've already heard these terms, but I do want to build some breadth and depth to them. So I'll click into connectors first, because we talked about connectivity to various business applications. MailChimp was thrown out there, Twitter and social media was thrown out there, Salesforce was thrown out there. You can hear in Microsoft's branding and the marketing and the messaging and the story they're telling about Power Automate and the Power Platform proper, that people live in different spaces. They have different biases. They have different implementations. They're using all of these different applications. So these connectors can plug into them and access these apps. So with
scroll down a little bit.
Yeah.
You're trying to find Business Central, aren't you, Marcus?
I
There's
know
Dynamics
it.
365.
Well, I scrolled down a little bit here, but I mean, I can just keep
There's Business Central.
scrolling.
This is
that
amazing
was
to me. And,
yeah.
and we talk about the future of this product. I mean, the future is here. We've got connectors for hundreds of applications.
Yeah, and the other thing just to note here too, I mean, and it's in chat right now. I mean, the developers, I feel sorry for you guys, right? It's like, no, we like to code. So we're talking about this no code thing, and I'm watching chat just erupt with this. Obviously, we can also then do code with this too. So the low code capability obviously is for the formulas. You can imagine it as a formula-driven system. I mean, that's like Excel. So if you're really good at Excel, this is really easy for you. But you can still use like Azure Logic apps to connect this then. So there are things that in life are not simple, and I know that because I'm married, so that's part of life, right? But there are things that are more complex and require then code to be created to really support that. And my wife is going to watch this, and I love you, sweetheart. It's okay. But the thing about it is that remember that we can go as complex, but also we want to have people that don't know any code to give their input, give their ideas, or even set up basics. I mean, do you really, as a developer, want to code so that it creates a notification for a person when a particular action occurs? I mean, I want to look at the bigger things. I want to create that logic app that has the dimensionalization in terms of the algorithm for packing, for example. Those are the fun things I want to focus on more if I was looking at development. But go ahead.
Yeah,
sorry.
no code to send an email. That works great.
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that.
My short answer there usually is any code junkies, any developers or technical architects or anything, you're safe. It's fine. And I can sum that up in one word or one phrase: synchronous processing. We still need you. So just as an FYI consideration for Flow or Power Automate here, everything will be run as resources are available. So everything is asynchronously run. So logic apps, Azure offloading, things like that, still going to be part of the ecosystem, still very much needed, especially with robust business apps. You're good. So, as Marcus, he scrolled down a little bit, and then I followed up with, well, I can scroll down a lot a bit. I think right now the ecosystem for connectors for Power Automate is 220, 230 plus connectors, and these are rolling in, if not weekly, then monthly, if not monthly, then quarterly. I mean, these are being added very frequently, and the list keeps growing and growing. So, we've got popular connectors up top. So plugging into Outlook, a lot of the Microsoft, the productivity or the Office applications are going to be available further down. We've already kind of touched on social media. So we've got our LinkedIn, we've got our Twitter, we've got Teams. If you're adopting Teams internally, we'll take a look at that in a flow in a minute. If you want to marry up, myself, in my, for personal email, I do live in the Gmail space. So, you can send calendars, you can send follow-up notifications. We talked about approvals a little bit. So there is a baked-in approval engine that's in here. Google Drive, all of our business apps. So, for FinOps, and that's changing a little bit, but we've got Salesforce there, Business Central, some more of those robust platforms, those robust applications. We can even hit, like Amazon Redshift is in there. We've got a lot of really cool options that are in the connector ecosystem right now. So these are the building blocks.
A lot of project management tools there. You saw Basecamp, you saw
Planner, and yep. Exactly. Here's Project Online. You think about how you can start formulating not just productivity gains for PMs, but PM message cascading or document storage or, like project critical documentation. I mean, there's a lot in here.
EDI movement, file system to FTP. I mean, you can, when a file drops into a directory, create an FTP, probably SFTP, right? But I mean, absolutely.
Sure.
Start moving more to this.
Yep. So I mean the combinations are pretty endless right now. It really is going to be the legwork here is determining what sort of productivity gains do you need or does your team need. So starting with more of a focus and building from there, because there are so many options that are afforded to you. But I mean, you can get addicted to this stuff. You can go and start building and building and building and having a ton of flows running concurrently. And there are some admin things to consider when you have a ton of flows firing. but it's pretty fun to see the different combinations. So starting with connectors, we can plug into so many things. Now we take that to another level with some of the templates. So if you saw on the left-hand side here in the navigation, I did click into the templates area. So to break it down a little bit, I mean, I don't think anybody had any misconceptions about what flow templates would look like or feel like, or conceptually what they would be. But Microsoft does offer up a number of these starting blocks. So not just the connectors where you can more or less work from scratch and build your own flows incrementally with different applications, or touching or speaking to different applications, but you can take these templates and run with them. So if I click on get a push notification when you receive an email from your boss, if I click into that, it's going to give me the breakdown of the connectors that are in play. So up top, it's going to give you a summary, but it'll tell us, the connectors that are in place. We've got an Outlook, we've got Office 365, or probably like Active Directory, and then we've got the push notification, so notifications button here. So you can start with these, go and create your flow. It will ask you for authentication, so you might have to sign in. If it's cross-application or cross-stack, you'll have to authenticate in, be mindful of that. But these templates do they give you a really nice starting block to go start doing and start playing around with and get a feel for how these things work together.
I can see how a connector works starting from a template, correct?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, if you go into get a push, we'll just run with that one as an example, kind of sticking with the Microsoft stuff. We'll get into a flow that I built that kind of touches on Outlook, Teams, and Planner, as well as mobile push. So if we go and create the flow, I'm already opted into everything right here. If I create the flow, the button at the very bottom, all lights, it was flashing red.
Marcus,
and
you've got this one set up, right? I know I do.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. This is definitely.
I get a text message too.
I know. I get texts. I get Dave. We got you covered. Got you covered.
Yeah. So I click create the flow. So right away, it's going to give you the summary information. Excuse me. So, the name of the flow, the description, the owner, and then some of the, in any business app, you're going to have some of these concrete attributes or some of the data capture here. Below that, you'll see this area that says runs. So anytime your flow runs, it will get captured. So it'll give you a little bit of that. Scott, you used the the phrase diagnostics earlier, which I liked.
And I use that. Yeah, and just to clarify, the runs actually. So an example would be for FinOps or finance and supply chain management. We're going to get over this terminology at some point in the future. It shows you the data. Like you can see the entity data in the run, so you can click on it, because I was trying to diagnose why a specific field wasn't occurring as part of that process, and I had to do some parse JSON flow event that was in there as well. But I didn't know what that was, so I went into the run, clicked on it, and it showed all the data that was related to it as well. So there's a lot of diagnostic information that you can use then to kind of debug your flows as well.
Yeah, definitely.
The thing I like about that diagnostics though too is it's sort of in layman's terms. So you don't need to be a heavy programmer to decipher what it's trying to tell you. Very usable messages coming back.
Yep, and this is very valuable. You'll see that we've got runs down here, and at the very top in this command bar, we do have an analytics. We'll jump into that in a fully fleshed out flow here in a minute. But if you're an admin, if you're somebody that really has to take a look at these in more of a compartmentalized fashion, or just be on top of all of your automation, if you're using Power Automate for it, it does give you that robust breakdown of successes, failures, and then it gives you some of the telemetry feedback and what went wrong and where you might need to brush up a few things. So that insight is invaluable.
Adam, we did have so we had Forrest Runner asking in chat here. I mean, this is all good and great, but if they're a CIO or a system admin, how do they really manage these, and how do they make sure that they're secure as well? I know there's a lot of different setups that drive that for templates that can be shared across the organization, right? And I know that there's a whole security model here too. Do you have a high level on that, just on how you manage that to keep that really secure?
Yeah, just as with like Power Apps, we have additional. I come from the CRM world, or Dynamics CE, and we have multiple security layers on top of what I'm familiar with back in the day. So when we're talking about Azure, when we're talking about Office proper, when we're talking about Power Platform, with this democratization, getting citizen developers these tools in hand to start building and doing, we do have additional security layers that we can restrict creation, we can restrict sharing. So it's a lot of the same sort of conceptual control as you would have in other business applications, a little bit more blanket. But I would say that if you're worried about like ALM and deployment and access and execution and things like that, there are some controls. And if you look on the left-hand side over here, you see solutions. So that you can compartmentalize these things, and in your ALM, in that release process and the management, you can control a lot from a Power Automate perspective, from a Power Apps perspective, or your general business application development. We do have some limiters, and we do have some control and an additional security layer specifically for Power Platform components.
Yeah, and one thing to note here is that they're increasing this administrative perspective in terms of capabilities with basically each release. So one of them is like with Azure Active Directory, making it so it can automatically deploy a solution when a user is created. There are scripts that when you start looking at local on-prem directories, when we wanted to set up like folder structures and things of that nature. A lot of you probably familiar with VB script, or the login script, or login.bat that would use way back in the day, and that's obviously improved over time where the group policy information contains that. So they're incorporating that story as well into the deployment of new users. And so I would say that they've come a long way in terms of security on top of Power Platform. Power Platform, if you look at their security model and their mentality with it, it's who has access to the app or to the flow or to the Power BI report is the primary security measure that's set up for that. And you can set them up as groups and things of that nature to help restrict that as well. So they've done a really good job at starting to incorporate more of this security and automation for template management. But I still think they've got a little ways to go on it. I wouldn't say it's not perfect, right, Adam? I don't think it's entirely perfect, but it's also, we're at version 3 of CDS, I'd say, in a lot of ways at this point as well.
Yeah, their governance is getting better and better. I would agree that it's not perfect, especially coming from like the CE world. Not to harp on that too much, but there was a ton of control on a business object by business object or entity by entity basis, or specific processes or automation, specific access. So it was very robust. It's not quite to that level yet. There are more blanket terms in how you can restrict or allow. That from that governance perspective. We're still getting there, but there is a lot more capability today than even 1 year ago, so it's promising.
And think about it this way too, just to tie this up. If you're a user, do you get access to the report, or do you get access to the underlying data? Typically, from a user perspective, it's the report, right? If you are given a copy of a report to run, wherever that report goes to get that data, to bring that to light, is what needs to be conceptualized. It's not that you're saying the person can't access the general ledger, for example. It's that they can't access it other than through this report, which is a structured way to bring that data to be presented to the end user. And this is really common where people have gone down the path of saying each individual entity is managed with security. But if you think about it, even like in, for example, a Business Central implementation, we've had many times where customers are like, I don't want anyone to see our chart of accounts except for these 6 accounts, because when we're posting purchase orders, we want to post expenses to those. So instead, what we do is we say, okay, the purchase order screen then only has access to those 6, but they still have access to that entity, to that GL account entity or structure that we look at with it. So there's going to be a little bit of from a development point of view or from a CIO point of view of looking at the underlying data. There's controls that are in there, but also start shifting as well to the user capability that's there. Marcus, do you keep on playing around with the lights over there?
Oh, we've got these energy efficient light switches that keep shutting off on me.
You just gotta just wave your hands like this constantly. All right, Mark, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, so great question. It's still being, it's still getting to that ultra robust level, but that's where you draw some hard lines between, business systems and users. What end users are really going to be afforded when they go build like a personal flow. So you can restrict certain things and live between certain cones. But to move on, I realize we're kind of crunched here, but on the right hand side, you can see your connections. So, what are those connectors that you're using? And just this is that summary pane of your flow. Like I said, you can see the runs down here. You have the analytics up top. You can export this and import it into a new environment. You can submit it as a template for future use. So pretty stock staple stuff up here. So going back to my flows, I'll get out of this. Now I just created that. I clicked create the flow and we got it. I think I actually need to go back to
environment.
What was it? Which one was I actually in?
It would have been the
Stoneridge
default.
It was in the default, wasn't it? Yeah. So
Or the one below it.
I whipped up this flow in a different environment, but I'm going to snap back to our default environment. Just some things that I whipped up for demonstration today. So I'm still in the my flows area, but you can see that we've got a couple of other flows to work with that we see here. So we have my flows, those that are owned by me. We got team flows. So if you're sharing with anybody, those would be visible here. Business process flows, we've already talked about that a little bit. Those would be displayed here, and then UI flows, really cool stuff. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But if I go back to my flows here, I'm just going to crack into one of these. So I created one last night that was more of breaking into the broader biz app ecosystem from a Microsoft perspective, more of the productivity and collaboration applications. So for this, the flow is titled Create Planner Task for Flagged Emails in Office 365. So if you're like me, you flag emails all the time and then forget about them, but you have a running task list. So because maybe you forget about them, you need more visibility. You need to really, trumpet that this is important, and you really need more global insight or global wherewithal that you need to follow up on something. Hey, this is something you have to take care of. So if you want to get that more immersive notification experience, you can plug into these other applications. So what I did on this one is when I flag an email, you can see my connections on the right-hand side here. When I flag an email, it is going to go retrieve my user, and we've got a couple of connections here. I'm actually going to go and edit this flow so you can see what the builder looks like in that point-and-click configuration from that perspective. So I'll click edit, and it'll load for a second, and then it'll show us kind of like a top-down flow, no pun intended, on what the steps are. So at the very top, we've got our trigger. So when an email is flagged, and it specifies the folder. Some of the developers that might be on the stream, further down, you've got our advanced options. So if I crack that open, we do have other inputs or variables or pieces of our trigger or our step that we can define or that we can control. And some of these do have, we've talked about this low code aspect. So like more of that the formulaic or that Excel formula type of control or type of extensibility. So that is in some of the steps that you might see. So when an email is flagged, I'm going to go retrieve my profile. So, hey, it needs to know who did the flagging, or we need to have that ID or that user context. So it'll go reach up to Office 365. It'll go into AD and it'll say, hey, Adam did this flagging here. I'm not going to go to the advanced options for each of these stages, but after that, it will create a planner task. I have been living in Planner a lot more, I think, much to the surprise and happiness of my colleagues. So, I'm going to go create a task, and I'm going to live in that Planner board, or at least introduce that I have to go take care of something in Planner here. So you can see some of the setup pieces here. So Plan ID, and a lot of these do have, it'll pull in identifiers, records, entities. So where it can and where it's baked into the product as is, it will show you, versus like putting in a string or a GUID or a formula, it will actually be a little bit more friendly with the display of the information that you have access to. So I have a flagged emails plan in Planner, but I also have other plans within Planner, and it shows us that here.
Yeah, another example of that is like within Business Central and finance and supply chain management. If you have an event off of an entity, for example, when something gets added for a notification or a record gets modified, in the body, like for the email portion of it, you can actually select the fields that are part of that response that came out to craft a nice email that's formatted and then have kind of like the old mail merge type mentality where you've got the field name there and it just fills in that value then with it. So,
Mail merge.
I know.
Nightmares from CRM 4 or 2011 and 2013.
I didn't mean to bring up nightmares. I apologize.
No, I hate that. That's just fine. We've got things like Power Automate now, so those nightmares can be put to rest. But you can see, I'm going to select my plan. The second one down, the tile. So this is that formula. So it can be dynamic. This was served up. I did not write this formula out. This was served up to us by the template, or by a template that I used to start this process or start this flow. So this is where there is a little bit more involvement here in that formulaic aspect. Further down, you do have buckets. If you have them built into your plan and planner, there are different buckets. More of that segmentation, organization kind of stuff. Start date, due date, etc. There's my AD ID right there. And then I injected another step to make sure that Teams yells at me too. So I get a card on my desktop, or I get a notification from Teams using the Flow bot. So Teams has a number of bots you can use to automate messaging, approvals, access to records within business applications, D365, etc. This is one of those bots. The Flow bot will engage me via Teams, and I have that other access point there. So headline, recipient, message, hey, you have a new planner task, and it's so enthusiastic. It's got that exclamation point right at the end of it. And then I'm going to get a push notification. So if you have the Flow mobile app on your phone, we'll take a look at that in a second, but it will send me a push notification. So that's the overall, the construct of the flow, and this is what the designer looks like. So cracking into each of these, pretty intuitive, and you can get pretty advanced with each of these should you need to customize it a little bit more. So I think
just one note on there. You can also do decision trees off of that. So if Dave sends you an email, you can send it also as a text message to make sure that you know that he's trying to contact you.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So there are things like if I wanted to add a new step, I can add a new step in there. And this is where you'd go select your connectors. You have your built-in standard, premium, custom, my clipboard. And then you have triggers and actions. So under actions, here's that condition. So, if we wanted to introduce if this, or, so we can work with that logical branching as we move through the construct of the flow. I'll peel that out of there. I'll go back here. I think this is probably a better time than any to plug into the mobile app. So what I'll do is bring up a mirroring app here, and we'll see if we can demonstrate this live. And it's a demo, so it's going to go horribly wrong, right? That's usually the case.
Anything and everything will go wrong in a demonstration.
Yeah. So let me know when the one sec. Let me know when that pops up, and you can see the
circle up. Look at that. I see your phone.
We're good?
Yeah. It looks like you got
Perfect.
Do Not Disturb on too as well. That's awesome.
I did. I was expecting some. My wife has the day off, and I was expecting some running like live tweet commentary for all the saltiness about Star Wars. So I turned everything off, and I'm not doing that. So I'm on my phone. This is my personal device here. I'll scroll over, and we've got my little work buckets. I've got a bunch of Microsoft apps in here. Now, just to highlight, I did have a little bit more time allotted for this, but I think we can probably skip over it to a degree. I'm going to go into the Flow app itself just to show you that, hey, we've got different experiences for different client. It's all unified experience, but we were taking a look at things on the desktop. Marcus earlier mentioned that, hey, the tablet experience is fantastic. The mobile experience here, I'm just kind of tapping around. We can go over to the buttons. We can go to the flows that we just took a look at. So I'll break into the flow we were just dissecting a little bit. The mobile experience from a personal device perspective, from like an actual phone, is a little different. It takes a little getting used to, but the cool thing here is if I click edit flow, we're going to get that same breakdown. We're going to get that same tree, and we have the same capabilities. I can't imagine actually if you did need to write those formulas, I can't imagine doing that here. I think that would be a little cumbersome. But the nice thing is if I do crack into, I think it was in the planner step, I can see everything we were just taking a look at. So I can tap into each of these steps and see that and configure it right from my mobile device, which I think is pretty awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there could be quick edits that you'd want to do there.
For sure. Disable, enable flow. So that's going on there. And then you do have your run history. So again, the diagnostics. Hey, was it successful? You can get that all from your device right here, which is pretty amazing. So what I'll do is go to, not my settings. I'll go into my Outlook. And I'll flag, I don't know. I think Scott, I had I already flagged it from you. I'm going to flag another email from Scott here. So I'm going to hold down, tap that email message. And I know you can do the swipe actions. I haven't set it up. I'm just lazy. But I'll flag that email. So it was an email between Scott and I. Hey, we're going to meet at 8 a.m. someday. And then I'm going to close out of that and move on with my day. So if we go into the Flow application again. Now, this might take a minute. I mentioned earlier that these processes, this workflow engine, it does run asynchronously. So it has to recognize the trigger. And if you think about all of the connectors and all the applications that might be a part of your flow, it could take a little while to auth in, do what it needs to do, retrieve what it needs, and then move through that. So there is some performance. There are performance considerations. We talked about the fact that we can't run these things synchronously. So just keep that in mind as you're building these or deploying these or really leaning on these for business critical situations. Yep. But I'll go into the run history here and see. It doesn't look like it's actually kicked off just yet. But I did flag the email, and what it's going to do is move through and set a planner activity for me, give me a push notification, and then scream at me on Teams. So I'm getting like 3-4 megaphones here because I flagged that email, and I have to not forget to follow up on it. Yeah. So Marcus, you mentioned the tablet experience. What kind of differs from like we're looking at it just from a pure vertical mobile device, pretty limited or a little streamlined in a few areas. So what does the tablet experience look like?
It just gives you the screen real estate to start doing edits and seeing more of what's going on. It's really similar to the experience with Power BI. When you get Power BI on the phone, it's okay. I always just find it hard to read. Maybe it's age, I don't know. But the flow experience, when you can flip the tablet, you've got visible screen real estate.
Yep.
For sure. And I realized that I had Do Not Disturb on, so a few more notifications popped up here, but I realized my push notification was not going to go through if I had Do Not Disturb on, so I did turn that off. It is taking a little bit for this one. So as we're waiting for this to execute,
let's take a look at the RBA stuff if we can. The solitaire stuff.
I think the last leg of what we wanted to demonstrate was this new concept of robotic process automation. So I'll duck out of the mobile. Oh, come on. Sorry, we're hitting a snag here.
Demos.
Yeah. All right, I had to Alt-tab out of there. It looks like we had a little hiccup with the Connect app. So we're back in. You guys can see everything all right in the Power Automate portal here. So this concept of robotic process automation, I think Microsoft will probably outline it best. And because we're a little pressed for time right now, what I'll do is display we'll run the video to really level set on what this is all about. And then we'll go right into an example of it. It's kind of a fun one. It's a little wonky. It's a little quirky, but I think it lands. So we'll take a listen to this video. We'll take a look here, and then we'll jump right over into what this new UI flow thing is all about.
Microsoft Power Platform helps businesses in their digital transformation. It includes Power BI, Power Apps, and Power Automate. It makes it easy to build dashboards, applications, and automations that your business needs. Microsoft Power Automate already helps over 150,000 organizations orchestrate across human processes and APIs. But what if your business process involves software that doesn't have an API? I am excited to introduce UI Flows, a new capability of Power Automate. Designed for developers and business users alike, UI Flows provides RPA. With UI Flows, Power Automate delivers secure and scalable automation across both modern and legacy applications. It is a holistic automation platform that brings together API and UI-based automation. With UI Flows, you can automate manual, repetitive, time-consuming tasks while ensuring people remain fully in control of their work no matter where those processes run. You can streamline how you work across applications such as Windows Desktop and websites by recording and automatically playing back your actions such as mouse clicks, keyboard inputs, copy paste, and more.
So let's check out how it works. Say you're a clinic operating off a legacy system. Every time you finish meeting with a patient, you need to extract many fields of data about the visit from your desktop software and upload it to your patient tracking system. These steps are repetitive, time-consuming, and require waiting for old systems that are slow to load. With Power Automate, you can create a UI flow that does these slow, repetitive steps for you. To set up a UI flow, start recording and perform your tasks. The flow will automatically record every action you take. Once done, click Stop to review and edit each of the actions. Finally, verify that the automation works like you expect by testing it. You can decide when to run the script by adding it to an existing flow. UI flows provide automation that brings legacy applications into the modern cloud-first world. It automates processes by leveraging the front end of an application, even if it doesn't have a connector or APIs. For example, you can interactively automate both classic Windows applications and websites, with added functionality to come. UI flows enable you to intuitively automate workflows without any deep expertise in code development. It has a step-by-step record and playback experience that walks you through the whole process with ease. Easily automate scripts with UI flows across multiple environments in a safe and centralized platform protected by Microsoft's trusted security. You can seamlessly integrate your legacy software across modern applications and services without a huge upfront investment. Power Automate offers a single platform across a range of applications, from simple to complex enterprise processes composed of hundreds of steps and actions that can be automated. As a part of Microsoft Power Platform, you can leverage over 275 existing built-in connectors. Get started with thousands of pre-built templates that make it simpler to quickly automate processes. As you can see, it's easy to build your own automation with Power Automate's guided and intuitive experiences. It puts the power of automation in your hands so you can do more and elevate your work. It's automation for all. Try it out at powerautomate.com.
Okay, Adam. I got to do it. Prove it. Now it's time, right? Let's see it. You're muted still, but
It's prove it time.
it's prove it time. We're getting close on time, and I'm sure everyone's like, yeah, it sounds too good to be true. Well, maybe it is. Well, let's take a look.
On the prove it level, I'm going to slide Teams over here. I did get barked at.
There it is.
I do have my flow card. Hey, you've got things are being a little. Our network is experiencing a little latency right now,
Could
but
be because they're all streaming.
You've got a new planner task, and that was that good morning email from
Yep.
Scott. That was right from you. So I did get that, and in fact, if I go over into Planner and check out my flagged emails box, good morning.
Good morning.
So
8
the
a.m.
flow did execute. If I go into that and I see the runs here and I update that, we are going to see an additional run for that. It's the network that we're experiencing
Absolutely.
right now. So
Yeah.
prove
So
it
let's do
number
the
one.
RPA now, right? That's done. That's just
RPA.
proving it.
Now we have to do this in like 2 minutes. Okay, so robotic process automation. A couple of things to consider. One, you do have to download. You have to download browser extensions. So this only works in Chrome or the Chromium-based Edge. You do have to download those browser extensions. And in fact, in the right-hand side here, up here, you see this. The Flow extension is enabled.
That's cool.
Outside of that, you also do, because it is, we're not calling a web API. We're actually bridging the gap between any triggers that we might be leaning on and reaching to local applications. So you can go to web apps, or you can go to embedded web-based like web pages or websites and do this. I decided to go the little harder route and do a local Windows app. So to do that, you do have to install a gateway and configure that gateway, because it has to get to your local machine. So you do have to set that gateway up for Power Automate to go run course here.
Okay.
But I'll go back to my flows, and we'll go to this one's called Solitaire Confinement. I'll just tell you a little bit about what it does first. So if I go into Edit, it's so
I
dumb.
love it. Look at that flow.
It's so dumb. It's so dumb. So in D365, when I create an opportunity and that opportunity's topic is equal to solitaire, please, we might get a throwback here. We might get some Windows desktop app gaming street cred.
Hey,
if
we're on Twitch. Come on, it's solitaire.
If we go to yeah, hey, technically this is a game, so we are streaming gaming.
Yeah.
So I moved over into D365, so I'm living in the Sales Hub, and I'm gonna go to opportunities here, and it'll show me all the opportunities in the system, a bunch of demo data. So I'll create a new one. And this really is it's so dumb, but it's really fun to see. So what I'm gonna do is set that topic. I just copy pasted that. I don't want to have any hiccups here. So solitaire, please. You have your business process flow. You've got a number of things that you need to set in your opportunity to really get it in the pipeline and get it to where it needs to be. I'm not going to do that right now, but as soon as I save this, I'll save and close it.
Now, is this in the right environment too?
Oh yeah. Save and close it. So you'll see the solitaire, please. Opportunity has been created. So it's thinking right now. It's thinking in the background, and I'm definitely killing time as things are firing. But the flow is going to traverse down to my local machine, and it will open up the solitaire game and start playing it. So I don't know. Oh, it's in the other screen. No.
Oh no! Multi-monitor. Okay, so we'll leave it there.
It opened up.
Will it work if you moved it?
I certainly hope so. Yeah, baby.
It is.
I should click on that jack a couple of times. Boom. And boom.
What the heck?
Obviously, yeah, and then they'll close it out. So that's very seriously, all I did was use a UI flow, and we didn't get into the guts of it. It actually is pretty intuitive to create an opportunity in D365, and I go, you know what, this is boring. I'm going to go play solitaire, and I'll just actually rig the system and make the RPA do it for me. So that was a really, really dumb instance of how you can use, both these web capabilities and some of your business applications to call local apps. This was a really just silly, example of doing that, but it does speak to the prowess and the power of being able to call these legacy applications that don't have a published web API. You're not willing to throw any API development to it, or maybe it's entirely incapable of maintaining a web API, and call these things and bridge that gap without a full integration or expensive middleware, anything like that. Do
we just lose everyone?
There, you need it, and it's powerful. It's powerful stuff.
It is. And I know we lost a little bit of you at the end there, Adam, so it was like I'm like on stream by myself, and I'm like, I feel alone now all of a sudden. So it sounds like everyone's back, so cool.
Okay.
Well, Adam, great presentation. I absolutely love this. I hope everyone on stream did as well. Obviously, there's some really cool capabilities here. The solitaire example, imagine extending that. I mean, he clicked on actions, and even, it would have been cool to move it too, but obviously, you'd have to have some conditional logic in there, right? If Jack, if Ace, and then all that kind of stuff, which I'm sure you could probably do. Might take a lot of time, though.
Might take a
Sending
minute.
data as well, right? So,
Yes.
and I could have pulled data out of another system, and then using this connector actually transfer data to the system.
Yes, yeah, and that's the powerful thing is, I mean, you can set input parameters, you can retrieve outputs. If we go edit this, you can see that it's the same sort of setup and UI as any other flow, but I mean, it's really
Set
fun.
up those
It was
conditions.
really fun. Once all the legwork was done to prop it up, it was really fun going into the recorder and actually, going like, what legacy app should I work with? Solitaire,
Yeah,
everybody's favorite.
and they use Solitaire to train people back in Windows 3.0 or 3.1 on how to interact with the mouse, right? That was the intent behind it. Yep.
Scott, you actually were my inspiration for that.
Oh yeah, yay! Solitaire all the way.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, we're at time. Thank you again, guys, for joining. We had a lot of fun on this stream. I think our next one isn't 2 weeks from now, right? We've got the schedule on Stoneridge Software /confab. I don't know if you want to pull that up, Adam, so we can share it on the screen. But
I think we're the 9th, right? 3 weeks out.
I think so as well, Sabrina. I don't know if you want to confirm that. Is it the 9th? And Marcus, I'm assuming you might have that one?
Yeah, I believe I do. We're going to spend some time with Business Central in 3 weeks.
Get into some more detail with it. Awesome. It should be fun. The 16th, it looks like. That's right, because I screwed everything up. Yep, that's right. So here, we'll go to it real quick in the background here. Let me just present it. And there it is right there. So the 16th, we've got actually Customer Insights was the one we were going to do.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the machine learning and AI. And we're going to try to get that integrated with Dynamics 365 in terms of using finance and operations. Yeah, Sabrina. I'm going to Disney World, guys. So I've got the kiddos, so I apologize. I screwed up the schedule for everyone. But we're planning to go through that in more detail, so that should be really fun. And then the 30th, we're going to do the cool features inside of Business Central and kind of drill into that a little bit more. So it should be fun. Should be a lot of fun. Everyone in chat,
to everybody that I just Googled StoneridgeSoftware.com accidentally. So
yeah, I didn't have that shown on.
I'm a tech consultant, right?
I was watching you do it, and I'm like, what's going on here? Just type it in. It's at the top.
You neter type worse than when a whole audience is watching you.
Yeah.
So I hit a couple snags personally.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you again for coming. Chat-wise, make sure you guys have happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Yule, Happy Hanukkah, you name it. Enjoy. Go see the Star Wars movie. Go see it. It's worth it. And make sure to have a good one. We'll talk to you guys in a couple weeks here. Click on the right button.